guys, coming at you with another episode of Tampa Bay Real Producers Podcast. This, of course, is the podcast that is made for Tampa Bay's Real Producers, by Tampa Bay's Real Producers, and with none other than Tampa Bay's Real Producers, such as Captain Bruce Erbeck. How you doing, man?
Very well, very well.
Captain Bruce. I always get excited when I say your name. There's just something cool about saying Captain Bruce. So we get to hang out today with Captain Bruce himself. We've met you at, I know you've come to a couple of our events now.
Correct.
Over the years. We had featured Captain Bruce in an issue of Tampa Bay Real Producers. I guess that was well over a year ago now, probably a year and a half ago or so.
Yeah, believe it or not, two publications.
Well,
no, but two publications.
Oh,
and
yeah,
and it was that long ago.
Two different issues. Yeah, absolutely. Right. He had so much content to share. We had to split it up into multiple articles for Captain Bruce. But you can, of course, join us live on Facebook right now if you're following us on the Facebook page, Tampa Bay Real Producers, and of course, following us on our subscriptions on our channels on the podcast. So let's start a little bit with your story, a little bit about your background. That's usually where we start. So did you grow up in the Tampa Bay area? If not, how'd you found your way here? And eventually how you got excited and interested in the real estate game? We'll start there.
Well, that's a run-on question, Don. That it's like a reporter in the press pool there. You know, yeah, 6 questions.
Want to leave it nice and vague for you. Just
right?
Dive right in.
I love it. So I'm a Floridian by nature. Grew up kind of all over the state. Lived everywhere but here. Go figure, right?
Okay.
Cut my teeth in real estate back in the late 90s. Over in the Stewart, Jensen Beach area. So Martin County, Port St. Lucie counties, things like that. Got my license. This wonderful guy who owned a Century 21 office hired me out of the military and said, listen, I need somebody who can sit in a model home all day and do data input for me. And I'm like,
sounds like a blast.
I'm your guy, right? That seemed really intriguing to me back when interest rates were so high and everything else. So I did that, and he said, if people come in to look at the model home, let them look around. If they got questions, you can answer them. And over time, he said, if somebody wants to buy one, let us know. We'll do the introduction if they get really serious, and then we'll give you a stipend, a $2,500 just a little bonus thing.
Okay.
Because in real estate you can't sell real estate.
Sure.
But you can sell model homes. And so the first month that I was there, I sold 3 houses.
Okay.
Never sold 3 houses before in their life as a company. These were custom-built homes.
They were blown away by Captain Bruce charisma.
They're like, this is incredible. You need to get your license. And so he helped me out, got my license. Then everybody who came in who said, man, I'd love to buy this house, but I have one I have to sell, became a listing. And so overall, my business kind of grew fairly quickly. But then I got lured away, Don, by the corporate America,
Wow.
The steady paycheck with a company car and an expense account. Having a couple little kids, I said, you know what, I'm going to put a pin in real estate for a while and go into corporate America. And that's kind of where I got my business savvy. National sales manager, became global sales manager for 2 different chemical manufacturing companies. Lived kind of all over the country a little bit. 10 years in Kansas City. Go Chiefs.
Tough game last night.
Whoa, it's very tough. We'll cover that off the air.
Few too many drops. It was something.
The tipped ball was the one that did it for me. When he ran it back. But what are you going to do? Brady's had games like that as well.
Yeah, it's only week 1.
It's only week 1, and I spent another 10 years in the Chicago market. And got to work for some very large companies there, like the Chicago Sun-Times, doing publications, working there, working with, again, the chemical manufacturing company. Met my wife there.
Seemed like that's a pretty big distinction from real estate to chemical manufacturing.
I know.
How did that connection happen? Did they find your resume somewhere? Did you have a connection and they just offered you an opportunity? Or
that's a great question as well. My dad worked for a company called Knight Ridder.
Okay.
And Knight Ridder owned newspapers throughout the entire country. They were based in Miami. And after getting out of the military, my parents still lived here in Florida. And he called me up one day and he's like, hey, have you ever played TPC at Ponte Vedra? Which is a golf course.
Beautiful
if you don't
course.
golf.
Yeah.
It's a very famous golf course.
One of the most famous ones out there.
That's correct. At the 17th hole. And I said, I've never played there.
The Island Green.
The Island Green. Dad says, I've got a vendor who's invited me to come and play, and I'm inviting you. And I said, well, fantastic. It was, can you bring a buddy? Because we need a foursome.
Sure.
So I said, well, the owner of the Central 21 that I was working for at the time, their son and I were the same age, and we both were in the business, and we both golfed. We became good friends.
Okay.
And I said, hey, you want to play TPC? He's like, absolutely. So off we go. 18 holes later, with my boss's son essentially saying how great of a salesperson that I am. By the time I drove back from Jacksonville to Port St. Lucie, I had a phone call. And we didn't have cell phones, right? So the phone call was to the house. My wife answered the phone, and she's like, I'll have him call you. And it was the gentleman we had just played golf with. He's like, you're key.
Look at that.
You're a person that
This
that
does
can
happen
sell.
on the golf course every day, huh?
Once in a while.
That's what
Once
they
in a
say,
while.
and that's a living proof right there.
That's right.
So I'd like to even go back a little bit further, because obviously with the name like Captain Bruce, there
Sure.
must be a reason for it. So what year did you enlist in the military?
Yeah.
What caused you to do that? And how long were you in the military?
Yeah, I went in 1987.
Okay.
And so it was a interesting time. People go in the military for different reasons, and I went in because I wanted the structure. I wanted to, I kind of wanted to see the world and realistically serve our country, and I was able to do that. So I got out in '95. And so I spent, quite a few years going all over the world, doing a lot of different things, and it was a good time. So now I reflect
Navy,
back.
Army?
Navy. Yeah, United States Navy.
Okay.
And that's where the captain part comes from. So believe it or not, and I was not an admiral or even an officer. I was enlisted. But sometimes when you rise up through the ranks fairly quickly, and in the different divisions, for special warfare, you rise up a little quicker than in others.
Sure.
And in this scenario,
They're still looking for leadership at every level, right?
and that's what it came down to. But my nickname was Admiral Erbeck.
Okay.
It's
a good nickname to have.
As a joke. It was Admiral Erbeck. But I felt after I got out of the military, it was a demotion, so I went to captain. And
who gave you the nickname? Your
just friends,
okay.
friends and family who who got to know me fairly well, right? Gotcha. Throughout the years of hey, let's go here and do this, and it's like, man, Bruce is leading the way. Let's roll.
There you go.
Yeah. So the captain part
What do you think
came
you
from that.
learned? I know I'm sure you learned a lot, but is there something that you think stands out to you the most that you learned from those years in the military?
Man, I would say don't stop doing what you're doing. Once you start it and you build your game plan out, you get your mission specifics done. And you know your waypoints, you know your guidance. Just keep going through. Rough times, if you hit rough times, guess what? It's a biblical principle. This too shall end. Okay,
yeah, no doubt.
And I promise you, if you put your head to it and you put your mind to it and you just keep driving, whatever's on the other side of that it's gonna happen for you. And so that's what I took away. Number one takeaway from the military is because you can be anything you want to be.
Sure.
Okay. If
Sounds
you have the
like
right
a slogan.
mindset. Well, it's the other branch. It's one of the other branches.
Right.
We won't talk about them today.
Do you still get into the Army-Navy game every year?
So I've been to the Army-Navy game for the last 3 years.
Yeah.
My nephew is at West Point right now.
Nice.
And he's in his first year, which is his senior year. And so, yeah, we razz each other a little bit, but he's a little too young for me to really get on him. So
Right, I gotcha. I have two cousins who actually went to Annapolis. And,
fantastic! They're super educated then.
Yeah, they loved it.
Yeah.
One of them ended up working in Pearl Harbor. She graduated from Annapolis and was stationed in Pearl Harbor as an officer.
Sure.
And the other one ended up in overseas, traveled a bunch, Germany and a couple other places as an officer as well. So I remember visiting Annapolis just to visit them at one point. It's just a beautiful campus. It was gorgeous.
I go to Annapolis. My wife and I, we spend a week usually in Annapolis every summer. We skipped this summer because we had a lot going on. I turned the double nickels 55.
Nice.
And the week where we would normally go
good,
up
man.
there,
You're looking good.
you put on a couple extra pounds when you when you roll over the fives. But normally we go up there. We spend a week with friends of ours on their boat, and it's July 4th week always. We got. Man, Annapolis, July 4th.
Yeah, that sounds
fireworks.
magical. Yeah.
It's fantastic.
That's cool. That sounds really awesome. So you spent, it sounds like 8 years in the military.
Yeah.
Did you have thoughts that you were going to be a career man in that space, or did you always feel like you were going to be heading out and doing something else?
Yeah, no, I was going to be in there for life, for the most part for life. And I was in, the decision to get out was a knee-jerk reaction. And what do they tell you? Never Jimmy Buffett song that says a temporary feeling or permanent permanent reminder of a temporary feeling or a temporary emotion.
Sounds like a Jimmy Buffett song.
I think it is. Jimmy Buffett. That sounds familiar. God bless him.
Yes.
God rest his soul, I guess I should say. But it was, we were in Hurghada, Egypt, and I was on board a Tin Can, which is a destroyer. And we would wake up in the morning and we would jump into a helicopter and we would fly over to some other smaller boats, cargo container ships, things like that. And we would, rappel down and we'd traverse through their ship and looking for things that were on embargoes and weren't supposed to be transporting up through the Red Sea. And I mean, it's 115 degrees in the shade in Egypt is hot. Okay. And I remember just going, I've had enough of this. This is not what I signed up for, doing embargoes and things like that. A little higher speed type of atmosphere is what I had signed up for.
Well, you were in it. Sounds like you were there during the first Persian Gulf War, right?
Yeah. Desert Storm, Desert Shield, both. Yeah.
Were you involved with that?
Yeah.
Were you stationed out there?
Yes. You're not stationed there. You're attached to a carrier group or something like that.
Okay.
And yeah,
that must have been some experience. I was a quick war. Thankfully, it didn't last very long, but it seemed like just any war, I guess, would have a certain element of, obviously there's life-threatening components to it, but just the element of being through what's involved in the preparation, I would imagine, to actually, attack and to go through war. That must have been something that you never forget.
The liberating of Kuwait seemed to be the quick war. The longer part of it was the liberation of Iraq. Yeah, so that one tended to last a little bit longer.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense for sure. So you left eventually when you decided to leave the military. You got licensed. It sounds, or you started working, like you were saying, just right after that.
Right after
in the homes and showing the model homes. Then you got the job offer. Did that for how long again with corporate America?
Man, I was 10, 15, probably 18 to 20 years.
Wow. Okay.
I know I don't look that old.
It wasn't an overnight thing. You were in it for a while.
I was in it for a while, yeah.
Did you miss real estate during that time? Did you knew you were always going to go back, or
I
not
never
really?
missed it.
Okay.
No, I'll be frank with you. A lot of people might sit here and say, "Oh, I was really drawn back," and I wasn't. When we owned a small business in Chicago, selling power sports. Okay. I had a power sports dealership, aptly named Flat Squirrel Scooters. It was very, very. We tried to.
I love that, Dave.
We took scooters to the Harley Davidson kind of mentality, right? We had fun T-shirts, like I'm talking 40 different designs. Okay?
Yeah.
When you walked in our showroom, there was tons of helmets and jackets and apparel and trinkets for your scooters and for your motorcycles. We sold motorcycles and ATVs, quads, things like that as well. But scooters were a primary piece of our business. We had a full service shop, and we did this for a couple of years. I owned that business, and at one time, I think it was in 2010, must have been.
Okay.
Lakeshore Drive, maybe you recall this, the storm was so bad that cars that were on Lakeshore Drive trying to go home, the waves were crashing over the edge of the drive, splashing water on them, froze cars in their spot on the road because there was an accident. The cars couldn't move. People had to abandon them. All 300 and some odd cars got towed down to Soldier Field.
Yeah.
And
it's about to say that doesn't happen in Tampa very often.
That part doesn't, but we did have something a week ago that
for sure.
Was pretty bad. But they pulled all the cars out of there, and I remember we got in the suburbs, we got just over 2 foot of snow in a 24, 36-hour period. And I remember saying to my wife, "We've got to get out of here." Find anywhere in Florida was the goal.
Yeah.
Find anywhere. And so she, within 3 weeks, had a full relocation, full job offer down here in Tampa market.
What did she do for work?
She was mostly on the I want to say IT, but that would not be doing its justice. Software analytics, things like that.
So she found something for her field in this area,
That's
in the
right.
Tampa area.
That's right.
Have you guys been here before? Did you know anything about this area?
Nope. The only time I would come over here is when we lived in Lakeland. We'd come over to Busch Gardens or come over to visit. Everybody has aunts and uncles that live in Sarasota or Bradenton. So we'd come over, visit the aunt and uncle in Sarasota, and but that was it. I had no experiences. We just moved here blindly.
So that was 2010, 2011?
Yeah.
And was it Pinellas County that you guys went to right away? Because you're in Pinellas now, right?
We're in Pinellas.
Yep.
the company that had an annual Christmas party, and we were doing house hunting at the time. And they said, "Hey, when you come down here, spend a week, do some house hunting." We did, and we chose the Residence Inn in Treasure Island as our place to stay. And we had a very large yellow lab at the time. So we were looking for a place, a condo, or something like that. And there was only one spot in Treasure Island that would allow a dog of that size. So we aptly bought the condo and so that we could live there with the dog, and we'd never look back. So we still live right there at Treasure Island.
Right near the water, right?
We're on the water.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're right on the water.
We had talked about your boating tendencies. So
yeah. Yeah.
So that's cool. So did you get involved in real estate right away then when you came down here, or
Shortly
connected? What made that connection happen for you?
Yeah, shortly thereafter. Again, once my wife got a job down here, I closed the businesses up in the Chicago market.
No more flat squirrels.
No more. The flat squirrels were all passed at that point, and I said, I got to find something to do down here. So I kind of went back on my roots, which was the chemicals and the manufacturing side, to a friend of mine who was president of a company that was looking for a sales rep in this market, in the Southeast. Okay. And so I knew nothing about, at the time, pressure sensitive vinyls and adhesives. Sounds interesting, but
fun to sell.
It's the most boring thing you'd ever imagine. It's decals for the most part, right? But the manufacturing of the material.
Yeah.
And so I went to work for that company. We'd already relocated here. So I went to work for them, spent a few years doing that. And then while doing that, I said, I'm tired of the travel. I'm done. And this was 7 years ago.
Okay.
So 7 years ago, got my license again, and went to work for a beach company on the beach that lasted, I was there for 2 years, marginally successful. Maybe my first year, I think I brought home $100,000 in sales in commission. And second year,
what's that, the equivalent of around 6 million in volume, somewhere in that ballpark?
That was actually it was much lower. It was probably around. I was selling higher price point houses, but I want to say that was really around $2.5 million. Okay. And then the second year, I think I did $3 million. But the office that I was in wasn't giving me the competition that I needed, if that makes sense, right? There's a couple different types of people. Some people need that constant reinforcement of, man, you're not number one. You're Ricky Bobby, right? If you're not first, you're last.
Not first, you're last, of course.
And so long story short, I left there and moved over to Remax Metro, and that's where I'm at today.
Okay. Doing a lot more than $3 million a year now.
Unbelievable. So yeah,
you don't know, Captain Bruce. I think I saw from the stats last year. You did over $25 million last year.
Yep, just under 26 million.
I think it was right around an average of about $1 million per transaction, from what I saw.
1.19. You know my numbers.
Yeah, right in that ballpark. So Captain Bruce has been, well in that top 500 in this market for sure.
Yeah.
So it's great to see. Now, was last year your best year, or how was that compared to some other years?
So last year would have been my best year.
Okay.
Period, hands down. And the year before was pretty good as well.
Sure.
I think it was like 16, 18 million the year before. But my accumulation, because I know that was one of the pre-questions we had planned out, was I'm at 89 million. And so I got to get to that 100
You're almost
million.
there, man. The century mark.
Got to keep pushing.
Will you hit there by the end of the year?
Oh yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Hands down.
Awesome.
Hands down.
That's going to be a great year to celebrate then. It's going to be something exciting.
This will be a good New Year's.
So tell me a little bit more about, so you're still focused really on individual production, right? You're not like recruiting or building a team necessarily, which I think we get a lot of different people that come on this show. Some are team builders, some are brokers, some are just individual agent rock stars, which really has been the path that you've taken, is just focusing on individual production. Is that do you like, are there things about that you love? Do you dabble or with the thoughts of maybe building a team and going down that road, or do you love what you're doing and this is the right fit for you?
So realistically, when you got here today, we only had a couple minutes to catch up. So you don't know, I just launched a team.
I didn't know. Yeah,
I know.
Let's break the news, baby.
It's just breaking news.
I love it. Like recently this year.
Like this month.
Okay, very cool.
Okay. So yeah, I now have as Captain Bruce home team.
Nice.
Okay. And let's see, we have 2 brand new agents. We have 2 seasoned agents.
Okay.
So far, we have an admin and a transaction coordinator.
Very cool.
So that's our team. We just moved
Captain
into
Bruce home teams, baby. We're
That's
growing
right.
it.
That's right. We just moved into a little office space in our downtown Remax Metro downtown St. Petersburg facility.
Yep.
And it's a
Rick
little
Brown still the man over there?
Rick Brown.
Yeah,
Rick Brown
I like
is still
Rick.
around.
Shout
Yeah.
out to Rick, man. Remax was a client of mine, actually. I was telling you when I had Snell Isle back in the day. So Rick was the main guy that I would connect with to talk about their programs and campaign and stuff for Snell Isle. So
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear he's still doing well and running the show over there, huh?
Rick Brown is still around, and Marcus is our managing broker.
Yeah.
You know, he's
I remember
kind of like,
Marcus, yep.
yeah, Marcus, great man. He's the guy. He's the guy that gets things done. You know, Rick's the face, and Marcus is the, you know, he puts his thumb on it. Let's
It's a great
go.
office you have, Remax
Yeah.
Metro. We
They know how to
feature
work-
a lot of
we work
agents out of
together
there. You have a lot of great top producers that come
Right.
out of that office. So it seems like they really have some good support, good programs. From my perspective, anyway, it's what I've noticed. It seems like that's been the case.
Yeah.
Is most of your work, would you say, on the St. Pete's, the St. downtown side? Do you do a lot more on the beaches side? What's your main niche, if you have one?
Yeah, it's mostly beaches, Terra Verde up to Clearwater. Beaches is the number one, our meatiest part of the market, right? But frankly, in the last 3 years, we've sold everything in from Apollo Beach, Bradenton, Sarasota, all the way over to Tampa, Wesley Chapel.
Oh, wow. So you are all over.
Yeah, town and country. I mean, so we've done different. I say we now because, you know, we're the
Team leader
we
now,
are
man.
the team, and so
Are
even,
your team, are the agents located in different areas, or are they focused mostly in Pinellas?
Yeah, they're all exclusively right now in Pinellas.
Okay.
We're really not set up to branch outside of that currently. We want to learn to walk before we run. And frankly, this all started a year and a half ago with a guy named Jared James. I'm sure you've heard of.
I've heard the name.
Jared James. Jared James is probably, I think he would probably be ranked number 1 or 2 as far as coaches go in our industry, in the real estate industry. Brian Buffini would be
Brian,
another gentleman. So I don't know how they would categorize who's number 1, who's number 2, but I know both are big. Both are very valued contributors to the Remax brand. They come to our annual conferences. They always do great presentations. And I ended up taking a mastermind class with Jared James and a guy named Rick Fuller.
Okay.
And so if you look Rick Fuller up, he's not in Florida. He's in California. He has the largest team in the United States.
Nice.
With I'm whatever number I tell you, it's going to be wrong. So I just know that his team is the largest team in the country.
Nice.
Over 1,000 agents. Okay, numerous offices throughout. I'm going to say the country because I think they're in different markets as well, not just California any longer. Rick Fuller and Jared James kind of hooked up and did this mastermind on how to build an effective team. So many people get into team building and they think, man, I'll just bring 2 or 3 people in. They'll go out and make some sales, and I'll get a little credit on the back end for it, and we'll work out a split that they're happy with and that I'm happy with, and everything's going to be great.
Yeah, there's a lot more involved than that.
Woo, dog. Yeah. What do they say? If you want to make $1 million in real estate, start with $2 million when you start a team. Okay.
Makes sense. Yeah.
But so it does take a little bit of time. It takes a little bit of money. It takes a lot of effort. And hopefully with a lot of coaching with the guys who are, and ladies, guys and girls, who are working with me as team members, a little bit of coaching, a little bit of mentoring, a little bit of guidance, a bunch of leads.
Yeah.
Hopefully through all of those things, we're going to have a successful team, and we will encroach here into the Tampa market as well.
So your focus then has probably shifted a little bit, I'd imagine, from over the last 5 years. You've been focused on solely lead gen for your own volume, right?
Yeah.
And building your own business, serving your clients at a high level, and providing great customer service and all those good things that top agents do, right?
That's correct.
Now, with this team launch that you just mentioned, how are you finding that balance of, are you still doing self-production? And I'm assuming not everything is going to the team, or maybe it is. I know a lot of brokers operate that way, and some
Right.
team leaders do. But how has that kind of distinction been, or that I would imagine that would arise some challenges potentially for you too, balancing the self-production, not losing some of those numbers, and then still supporting, providing leads for the team, providing the support that the team probably needs. How has that been for you going through this on the early stages?
Sure. Great question. Again, multifaceted question. I like the multifaceted questions. So we're in our infancy right now. So we haven't had a lot of opportunities for me to say, hey, I'm going to take this guy or I'm going to give that guy.
Right.
Right now we're really in the building of the team, and so we're doing ride-alongs. They're coming with me with the buyer and seeing what each how you open the doors, even right.
Gotcha.
How you present a property. I can't tell you how many times.
These are all new agents that you have on the team?
2 new agents, 2 very experienced agents.
Gotcha.
Okay. So the experienced agents, they don't need that. Yep. But what they do need is they need the leadership and the mentorship and the, hey, have you thought about this? What's not working for you? Well, let's fix that. Yep. Let's see what we can do there.
Coaching,
yeah. But for the newer agents, so it's really multifaceted, right? Every day is a little bit different if you really looked at it. Mm-hmm. Some days it's a lot of one-on-ones. Other days it's a team environment. Other days it's an individual effort. And so yes, I've not let go of the reins entirely.
So you're leading by example, basically.
Lead by, that's a great way to put it. Lead by example. But my primary focus for the team right now is for me to generate the listings, right? Yep. So if I'm out there generating listings, name recognition, got the listing presentation that is unbeat today, okay? Mm-hmm. Unbeat. I've not lost a listing since I switched to my new listing presentation.
Nice. We're going to hit on that next.
Correct.
Yeah.
I figured you might want to talk about that. But as far as that goes, I'm focusing on the listings. And boy, did I pick the wrong time to do it, because there's like no listings out there.
Hey, well, this is the time for the champions to step up, I guess. Right?
I mean, this is the valleys we were talking about earlier. And when you hit those valleys, you just got to keep on going. And that's what we're doing.
Mental toughness plays a role.
That's exactly right. That's right.
So let's talk a little bit about some of these tweaks that you've made and why it's been effective, in your opinion, on this listing side, because I think that's some nitty-gritty type content that some people would probably love to hear about in the audience. So what did you change? What's been working for you? You don't have to like role play your whole presentation or anything, but what are some of the key things that you think have made a difference?
I can't imagine how many times people say mindset, right? Mindset, that's what you need. You need the right mindset. And I'm going to tell you that is the number one thing. And so, but I'm going to give you the meat. Okay, I'm not just going to give you and say, oh, it's the mindset. And you go ahead and have the right mindset. It is. But here's the mindset. When I walk into a listing presentation now, I actually tell the sellers, and I say sellers because typically there might be 2 people there, a husband and wife, partners, whatever that dynamic looks like, and myself. The other day, I took 2 agents, one new and one that's been around, okay, on a $3.4 million listing opportunity. And so we're sitting there, and the mindset that I transfer to the seller is one of a business stature, okay? Because if you're selling $1 million home and up, you've probably been in business. You've probably had a career.
Makes sense.
Maybe even served on a board or something like that.
Yeah. It's not a first-time home.
It's not a first time, not usually.
Not usually. Right.
And so I put the mindset with them that they are essentially the chairman of the board, okay? Because there's usually 2 of them, or 3, sometimes 4. Kids get involved, right? And the family's involved or something like that. I once sold a house for 7 sisters. 7 sisters. I had to get all 7 of them in the room.
Sisters of the faith?
So you'd think, right? They were a very Catholic group, by the way. I'll give them that. But I set the mindset with the seller that they are the chairman of the board.
Okay.
And I asked, do you understand what that means to be the chairman of the board or to be a board?
Yeah.
And 99% of the time they say, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, I served on a board, or I know my friend's on a board, or I worked for a company that had a board of directors. Great. One of you is the chairman. Which one? That's your decision maker, right? That's your final decision maker.
Yep.
So one's the chairman, the others represent the board. I, however, am the CEO. And I want to set that expectation that once we have an agreement, once I'm hired to come to work for the board, because that's what the CEO does. CEO works for the board. They don't work for the company, they work for the board. They can be fired by the board, they get hired by the board. And that's the mentality that if your sellers understand that, wow, we are empowered, but we're not the decision maker after we turn the reins over. This guy is.
Yep.
He's going to give us all the data, as a CEO would to the board, of why you should do and make a certain decision. Price, timing on the market, the right photography, all those other variables, right, that go into it. What syndicated websites do you market the home on? All of those things are decisions that I, as the CEO of that transaction, will decide.
Sure.
They are relinquishing that, and I let them know up front what our roles are. By doing that, it sets their mindset for the entire transaction. If it's going to take 90 days to get a contract on the house, they understand that that's what it's going to take.
Yeah.
And what I'm doing. And I give them updates and things like that. But it prevents a lot of future issues with, hey, I haven't seen anybody for a little while. Hey, we've done a price reduction, and we've seen all these numbers jump up, but we haven't seen an offer yet. What's happening? So we set all those expectations in the beginning.
Yeah.
And so setting the mindset with the seller and with myself and now my team and now everybody listening it's the best thing you can do, because it establishes the relationship that you're going to have with that seller going down the road.
I love that, man. I appreciate you sharing that. I think that's a unique perspective that, I haven't heard it before. So I'm assuming a lot of agents don't adopt that mentality. And I think it fits really well with your audience, because like you said, these people are generally business savvy. So if you can empower them, which is what I really love about it, is I feel like it involves them in the process more.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they feel like, oh, you know what? I am the chairman of the board. I am the owner, the real decision maker. Like you really empower them. And because you're giving them that power, they're more likely, I would think, to trust you. And realize that you're showing respect to them, and that and where they fall into the paradigm of this situation.
Right.
You're not just going in trying to impress them.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of agents still do that, and some have very impressive resumes and can do that well. But I think that approach to me is a very smart way to position yourself different.
Correct.
Than a lot of other agents.
We call it coming alongside. Yeah. Right. So instead of the power dynamic being in a vertical, we kind of flatten it out a little bit. So we say, we're going to work together. We're going to work with you, because guess what? It's also their responsibility somewhat to market their house, to keep it ready, to keep it where it's show ready. We can call up 24 hours notice and say, hey, we're coming tomorrow with a buyer. And so by doing that, it really is a partnership, as you had said.
I love that.
We come alongside them.
Yeah, and I think what you also said is huge, is the idea of setting the right expectations and being able to then communicate aligned with those expectations.
Sure.
Because I know there's something I learned years ago from one of my mentors, which is when people get frustrated in sales arenas, which I think real estate fits into that mold, right? From a sales perspective, and you've done sales in other industries as well.
Correct.
A lot of times frustration or discouragement sets in when expectations are not met. Right.
That's number one.
That's the definition of frustration for most people, right?
Truly.
Expectations not being met. And so being able to be very clear about what those expectations are and their role, too, in achieving those expectations, because it is just as much many times about them as it is about what you can do.
That's right.
As the agent. So great stuff, man. I appreciate you sharing that. I think that was gold. Hopefully people can take that and implement it and tailor it in a way that would help them moving forward too.
I really think, and that's why, I subscribe to the fact, and frankly, I'm going to leverage this onto, being nominated. Myself was nominated for one of the 6 top producers.
That's right, agent this year.
That's right,
the Agent Choice Award.
Agent Choice Award, and I want to tell you that that wasn't a light thing. I truly believe that as the tide rises, if we all care about each other. Everybody's ship goes up. Okay, nobody's being held down, but you have to help.
Spoken
everybody.
like a true Navy man.
Well, there is that. There is that. The tide, the moon, but you have to help everybody. Okay, and so when I work with a buyer's agent and they're newer, there's a lot of times where maybe a little handholding that you typically wouldn't do in a regular business environment, right? Maybe you even, you don't want to say give them pointers, but you certainly want to make sure the transaction, because you're representing that transaction as well, that the transaction stays on track. And so, if somebody's starting to do something that's going to derail it, you kind of want to help them. Totally. And I think that's where, the Agent's Choice Award kind of nomination kind of came in is I've done that with a lot of people.
Maybe you'll be nominated again this year.
Hey, you never know.
Next
you never
year,
know.
I guess I would say.
I'm not gonna mention any names, but when I first started back in real estate here, and I was with the particular beach company, and I had a couple listings, and I would get calls, and I still do coincidentally get calls from other agencies asking, hey, can I do an open house at this particular place? And we made full circle this week because the very first, I would call them a duo because it was a husband-wife. I'm not going to say the name or the company. But those guys he posted something. We're friends on Facebook, okay? And so I feel a little bit like maybe I helped them get going a little, right? Didn't really do anything except let them do the open houses. But at the end of the day, it was a springboard for them. Having said that, now, just this week, I'm scrolling Instagram and I see this post that's, hey, we're taking pictures today, yada, yada. And I actually have a buyer for the exact unit that they're putting on the market.
Nice.
Which is on the market now. And so now we're able to go see it. We weren't going to do any violations going early. But at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. I'm helping
collaboration
him, he's helping
is key.
me.
There's no doubt. And that's really, as you know, what Real Producers was built on, was
Absolutely.
this concept of collaboration among top producers so that we can offer unique ways for people like yourself to share your ideas and what's working, and even more importantly, in some ways, just build relationships, with other top producing agents. I felt like as I learned more about the franchise, like that's a niche where so many real estate things you get invited to are more broker specific.
Yeah.
And people have good relationships with people within their own brokerage many times.
Yeah.
But not as much outside of their brokerage. And even though they might know the names of people because they know they produce, there hasn't been opportunities, at least that I've seen consistently, where you can build those relationships with people in different brokerages. So I feel like that's one of the things we've really tried to do, and hopefully we've done an okay job of it and can look to continue to do it moving forward. I want to ask you a couple things about on the personal side for people who don't know you that well, who might want to get to know more about Bruce. Maybe it's somebody who's an agent who loves what you've heard so far and might even want to join Bruce's team one day. So learning more about what makes him tick. I know you're big into the boating world. I think you have a boat, right?
Correct.
And you spend a lot of time at it with your wife. And do you have kids?
I do. I have a daughter, and I have grandkids now too. So 55
Are they local?
double nickels. No, they live in Wichita, Kansas.
They do. Okay, that's in the middle of nowhere, huh?
Well, you have to remember we lived in Kansas City for a period of time, and
you
so
guys have been all over the place.
So they went to college in the Midwest, and Southwest Baptist University. She met her now husband there at college, college sweethearts.
Do you get to see them often?
Yes, actually, in the last year, we've gotten to spend a little bit of time. Not quite a bit. We could always spend a little bit more, but
nice.
You won't see me relocate into Kansas anytime soon. Let's just put it that way.
You love the water a little bit too much for that, I take it, huh?
Yeah.
So, what do you guys do for fun, if anything, outside of just when you're spending time on the boat?
Man, right now we're doing cleanup from the hurricane.
Yeah,
a little bit still. We had some water come over the seawall, not too high, but enough that it killed a bunch of vegetation. And then we had some artificial turf that was also kind of. I never imagined that the water would get under the turf, move the base, the sub base underneath the turf, move it back, and created like its own little berm.
Oh wow!
Which in a way was divine, because I really think that. As that berm was created, it held the water back a little bit, from coming even higher.
Yeah.
So it worked out. That worked out pretty well. But we do, my wife and I, we do so much together. We're going, I think our anniversary, 18 years, 17.
I bet your wife at a couple of our events. She's a sweetheart.
Yeah,
for sure.
she's fantastic. So we do a little bit of traveling. We tried to buy a cabin in the mountains up in North Carolina, and every single time that we get ready to make our offer on it, because I do a lot of due diligence before.
Yeah.
Different rules in different states. We get somebody beats us out. So even in this market,
you got to do that due diligence after you get it under contract.
I know. But you'd be surprised when in North Carolina anyway, when you make an offer on a property, you actually have to put due diligence money down.
Really?
That's non-refundable. That's just for them to take the house off the market. Now, it does go into your deal if you move forward with it. But if you don't, you're walking away from $2,000-$3,000.
Right.
You're not going to do that too many times.
Yeah.
And this last one, and I won't go off on this tyrant, but this last one had a partially private road that led up to it, and we really needed to understand who owns the road, right? Because it's gravel, and it's at an elevation where it does get some weather and some snow, a little bit of ice, and if who's responsible for that was a big question.
Makes sense. Probably a good idea to know who that is.
Right? Before you
Do you have
sign
a favorite
online.
place to travel? Any favorite spot? Is it the mountains of North Carolina or somewhere else?
Yeah, we like going to the mountains twice a year. We try to get up there in the summertime when it's really hot here, which we just got back in August from. And we like going up around Christmas, New Year's. You know,
Yeah.
it gives you that change of scenery, a little change of temperature.
It's a good time to get out of here and check out.
Get to wear a
If
jacket.
you're going to go to a cold weather, that's the time to do it.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's right.
I get
so
it.
we enjoy that. I think I had shared with you, Army Navy game for the last 3 years.
Yeah.
We went to I took my wife to her first Chiefs game last year.
Nice.
I've
I've never been to the stadium. It's on my list.
Oh, you've never been to Arrowhead?
Never been to a Chiefs game.
It's absolutely fantastic. There's no experience like it.
Seems like it's a cool environment.
It's the barbecue. You have to tailgate.
Yeah.
In Kansas City, it's like a college game day experience.
Yeah, they're known for their barbecue. That's for sure.
They're known for the barbecue. So we did the whole thing. We
I'm waiting for the
tailgated.
Giants to play them there. I'm a New York guy, so I grew up as a
Okay.
Giants fan. I'm actually going to New York this year. The Giants are playing the Bills in Buffalo, so I'll be up for that game.
Nice.
But if they ever make it to Arrowhead, because they don't ever really play there,
No.
I'd love to go and make a little road trip and see if I can hit it up. That would be sweet.
My wife and I were in Giants Jets Stadium, Meadowlands, right?
You can
Just
still
last
call
year.
it Giants Stadium. It's okay.
Giant Stadium. Yeah, we were there last year for the Army Navy game. That's where it was. Happened to be.
Usually they're in Philly, right?
Yeah.
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 Sometimes they do have them in Jersey. I went to one years ago in Giant Stadium, and it was so cold. I remember going to that game, but we sat right next to the midshipmen, all these in the crowd. You know,
Oh, I'm
all
so
the
sorry.
officers. It
Boy,
was
is that
awesome.
loud.
It was a great experience. I'll never forget it. I was a teenager. It was years ago now, but it was a really cool memory for sure.
Yeah.
Couple rapid fire things just about you personally. Number one, do you have a favorite book or author or maybe even a seminar that you've attended that you feel like has made a big impact on you?
Yeah, the number one book that I would recommend is called Selling to Vito, VITO. It stands for Very Important Top Officer.
Oh, that's cool.
And it's a book that gives you some language that will help you when you're making cold calls, will help you when you're calling that expired or you're calling, and it's not a real estate book, but if you change the language from just a business perspective, to something real estate related, it will definitely help you. And understanding that the person that you're speaking to on the other end of the phone really is a Vito. They are a very important top officer, right? They're
Yeah.
the chairman of the board.
Yeah, I love that.
And so the mindset that I go into after reading that book, it really did help me a lot because it gave me that mindset of, hey, this is a very important top officer. I'm very respectful in how I transition, how I communicate with that individual.
I love it. The title is Selling with Vito?
Selling to
Selling
Vito,
to. That makes more sense,
VITO.
yeah. Selling to Vito. I haven't heard of that before. I'll have to check it out.
Yeah,
I'm
the
a
other
huge
the other
guy,
book
so-
I'd recommend is called First Things First.
Yeah, I heard of that.
Fantastic read. A little bit of a long read. It's not something you could pick up and just catch up on an airplane. You really need to digest that one. Gives you a baseline for quadrants, how to understand what's busy work,
Yeah.
what's important,
Yep.
what's necessary. And it kind of breaks it into four
About
quadrants.
your priorities.
It's all about priorities,
Yeah.
but it's also about personal priorities as well as business priorities. Because I am a victim of being tied to the hip of the cell phone,
Aren't we all?
okay, and the email. And so how many times, I can't tell you, I'm out with my wife or I'm out with friends and the phone rings and I look at it and I'm like, I got to take it. It's a name. It's not a random number or it doesn't say telemarketer.
Right.
And I take that call 8:00 at night because frankly, that's the access I want my sellers or my buyers to have.
Yeah, I get it. It makes sense. And it's always a balance there as to like
It's a balance,
what's
though.
the right thing to do professionally versus do I have that balance on the personal side where I know I have certain time that's protected. We've talked about that multiple times as well on this podcast with people over the months here.
I've heard people talk about that on your podcast. And I always like the people who say, I'm not 9 to 5 and at 5:00 I turn the phone off. I hate that guy. I actually hate that guy because I did a transaction with that guy, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, I turn my phone off every day at 5:00, and I'm like, dude, we have to do some business still. There's some questions that have to get answered. Things pop up. I'm sorry, we really need to know, a little bit before. Like, hey, can we get in there on Wednesday? Can I set the appointment for the inspector per se?
Real estate is not a 9 to 5 business. I
No,
think most people
it is
understand that and know that. Now, you can create systems where maybe you personally are not available at certain hours, but that I think means you have to have something set up where you still have somebody who can answer those calls, who's going to know what they need to know and provide information, right?
That's correct.
And that's where I think some of the team building stuff comes into play, is having always accessible info, even if it's not you, that's always the person who's always available, right?
Right. That's right, Don.
Individually. What about, do you have a favorite movie or TV show that you enjoyed?
I mean, that's a great question too. I love all these great questions. Top Gun.
Oh, of course.
The movie Top Gun is the reason I went in the Navy.
Is it really?
It is absolutely, hands down, the reason I went in the Navy.
How about that?
Yeah.
But you didn't go down the pilot route.
I started down the pilot route.
You did, okay.
I started that way in the aviation field, and they're like, "Yeah, you're not going that way. You're this." I was a big, muscular Florida.
Too big
beach,
for those little planes, huh?
Yeah. I was, and although my depth perception, everything was spot on, but you got to be an officer, in order to fly anything.
I didn't know
in the
that.
Navy. Yeah, you can't. It's not an enlisted job.
Okay.
And so the Rotary, I believe, you can still be enlisted for warrant officer.
Gotcha.
But everything else, fixed wing, you're definitely an officer. So it wasn't going to be pilot, but I was thinking, air traffic controller. There's no stress in that job, right? It's kind of like a realtor.
Of course not.
But Top Gun changed my trajectory of my life. Went in the Navy because of that show. So then when Top Gun 2 Maverick just came out,
Yeah, I loved it. It was great.
Loved it. It was a fantastic show. So that's my number one movie. I can quote every line from the entire movie.
Maverick or Iceman?
All of them, both of them. I feel the need for speed.
It is a classic movie. I think out of all, that's one of the movies where probably people quote lines from that movie more than most. That's for sure. And you hear it everywhere. So I love it. I actually, believe it or not, didn't watch the first one until like couple of years before I watched the most recent one that just came out. So I went a long time without even ever seeing the first one. And then I ended up seeing it like randomly with my wife, and then at home one day, loved it. And then the second one came out. Obviously, I wanted to make sure I saw that right away. But yeah,
Don, I've heard people tell me that before. They did the same thing. They didn't see the show back in the day. And I mean, I can only imagine I can't even imagine what that was like, because, when Jaws came out, I was 8-9 years old.
Right.
I saw Jaws. Poltergeist came out. I watched the Poltergeist, right?
Yeah.
Some of the great
Top
Gun
shows was big when I was a kid too. I don't know why I never saw it though. As a kid, I just didn't. But yeah, I missed out. I missed out on those early years.
Yeah.
I got one last question for you.
Sure.
Well, really two, as we wrap up here. One is, if people want to reach out to you, especially now that you're building a team, if they want to pick your brain a little bit more, maybe talk to you more about your listing appointments and all that fun stuff, what is the best way for them to reach you? But best contact info for you?
I mean, mostly cell phone works great, right? Texting, isn't that what we use mostly, texting nowadays? CaptainBruceHolmes.com is the website. Let's see, Captain Bruce. What is it? Oh my gosh. Captain
just look
Bruce.
Up Pat Bruce. Yeah. You'll bump into him somewhere.
I promise, if you just Google Captain Bruce, it pops up. So please leave me a positive review, not a negative one. But yeah, that's the best way to get a hold of me is cell phone. You can also email. You can pop me on the IG. I've got Captain Bruce Realtor on Instagram. You can find us on Facebook. It's all just Captain Bruce. It's everywhere. You'll find it.
Yeah, especially in the Tampa Bay area. Just Captain Bruce, and you're going to bump into his face somewhere.
That is correct.
And the last question I have for you, it's one of my favorites, just to kind of get you to think a little bit about why I think we all go to work and what we're looking to build. It's all about legacy for many people, right? So when you think about what you really want to be remembered for, Captain Bruce, when your maybe career might be done, or you're sitting on that rocking chair looking back as to all the things you're most proud of in your life, what do you think are, what would you want to be most remembered for, whether that's personally or professionally? What is that legacy you'd want to leave?
Man, I truly have come full circle on this. You start here and then you go here, and it became all about the money, and then it becomes about the relationships. And now, here it is now, I'm trying to build this team, because realistically want to help others to be successful. I would like them to. I coached college soccer.
Yep.
I don't know if we didn't really even talk about that.
We didn't.
I coached club.
We'll have to have you on another episode.
Right? Club and college soccer, boys and girls. And, we did national championships. We've done state cups. We've won some of the largest tournaments in the country with Chicago Magic out of the Chicago market, and then Kansas City and the Kansas City market.
Nice.
And I can tell you, so many of those young folks that played soccer with me, for me, today we're still friends on Facebook. I still get invited to their weddings. I still, it's because they're all getting married. They're all in their 30s, right? Just early 30s, late 20s, and just watching them develop and them have their children, and I just know some of those conversations that are happening behind their doors that are talking about, well, I remember when my coach would tell me to do blah, 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 blah. And it's just that impact that you can have on people in a positive way that really just helps society as a whole.
No doubt. And
so that's what I hope that, when my day comes and I'm in that box at the front of the room, that people stand up and say, that he really just helped me to become who they are today.
It's cool. And I think being a team leader in real estate is definitely one of the ways that you can do just that, and be able to give back in a business that is necessary, that everybody, there's a need for.
That's right.
And I think you can never have too much good leadership in this industry. So,
and frankly, you and I have discussed this before offline, raising the bar.
Yeah.
Okay. Raising the bar of quality of realtor.
Yeah.
Okay. It's a low entry point. Let's face it. To be a realtor, it's not a high bar. Okay. And you could step over it for most people. But to elevate that from just being I'm doing this on the side, okay, to a full-time job and a profession. And that's where I think you've got to delineate with, you want that 80-20 rule.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Well, it was good to have you here, man.
Thanks, Don.
I'm excited to dive in what we did, and I hope that the audience got some good nuggets from our conversation here today, and we can follow us on our YouTube channel moving forward. We're going to end this episode the way we always do, which is with a challenge, and that is that if you took the time to watch us live on Facebook today, or you have taken the time to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Tampa Bay Real Producers Podcast, if you haven't subscribed yet, what is one thing, just one action step that you can take from the time you invested in watching this today that is going to help move you forward in your personal and professional business life? Maybe it's implementing some of his tips for the listing meetings, right? I think that was awesome. And maybe you have to change your mentality about how you approach these sellers and come up with a better way to connect and build better expectations. Maybe you have to watch Top Gun. I don't know exactly what it is, but there's got to be something that you can take from our conversation that provides you. Maybe it's one of the books that Captain Bruce recommended, but take an action step, do something, just one thing today that's going to move you forward in the right direction. And if you do, then you'll be on your path to becoming a real producer in the Tampa Bay market. So have a great rest of your day. We'll see you on the next episode of Tampa Bay Real Producers.